Hey everybody, welcome back to Suburbs of Seattle. Today's hot topic is how can you buy a lot of homes? Yes, you, sitting on the other side of the camera. It is possible for everybody. I'm going to be sharing with you 3 strategies. The first one is one that I've actually used over the past 5 years or so, and it's pretty simple. You go apply for a loan and you get your primary residence, a place that you legally have to live in for 1 year. My first house I bought back in 2017. I bought it for $370,000 in Vancouver, Washington, and I think we put like $17,000 down. It was like 3.5%. Whatever that turns out to be, my memory kind of is fading about that transaction. Anyways, so we put 3.5% down, and what you have to do is you live in there for a year, and then the next year we ended up buying a condo for also, you guessed it, 3.5% down. Depending on the lender you work with, you should be able to buy 1 home a year for anywhere from 3.5% to 5% down on a primary residence. And again, a primary residence means you have to live there for 1 year. So we bought our condo. The following year, what we ended up doing is we actually built a duplex instead. We can go into that later. I have a different video on that for you guys. But a year after that, I bought my home that I live in today for 5% down, right? It's a property here in Kent. It has 3 homes on it. We're living in one of the properties and we're renting out the other 2. So again, it doesn't take a lot of money. I think the most I've ever paid was $50,000 for 5% down for the property I paid now for the property I bought just recently, because it was like at $970,000, something like that. But besides that, my house I bought for about 16K. My condo I bought for about $7,000. The property that we built it for pretty cheap as well. We'll go into that later. So ultimately, my point that I'm trying to get across is it's completely manageable for you to save up anywhere from $8,000 to $20,000 a year and buy 1 property a year. That's the strategy I've been doing. Now, the second strategy, the gentleman I'll be talking about, they actually pretty much don't use any of their money, and they own more units than I do. They actually own 150 units. I'm gonna link their course down below. You can find them on the multifamilystrategy.com, and it's Cody and Christian, young guys, just the same as me, or I'd like to think so. I'm aging well. Anyways, young guys. I think Christian is like 30 something and Cody is like 24. They own close to 150 units, and they achieved all of these units simply by doing seller financing. Now, seller financing is where you go directly to the seller and you work out a deal where the seller is the bank and they are the one who finance your loan. You make your payments to them. Now, one of the things that you do in this strategy is if you can find the right seller, you don't have to put any money as a down payment. All you do is you simply make your monthly payments and that's it. Now, what kind of a seller would agree to that, and why would they agree to that? Well, coming from their podcast, which I heard recently, one of the people that they target specifically is people who have 100% equity, which means they have no loan on their property, right? So sellers who have owned it for a while, they're probably older as well, probably in their 60s, 70s. And these guys simply call them up, say, hey, I'd love to learn from you. What did you do to buy this property? They meet up for coffee, build up a relationship, and eventually pitch to the seller saying, hey, would you be open to carrying a contract and for me to buy this property? Now, your question might be, why would the seller just give them the property under these terms? Well, a lot of these sellers have kids who have no interest in owning real estate and who want nothing to do with it. And the sellers don't want to leave it to them because they know it's not going to get taken care of. They may or may not want to give them just some money for it. So what they do is instead they agree to your terms. Again, if you build up good rapport, if they like you, if they trust you, they agree to your terms. You take over the property, you manage it, you put your money into it, into whatever repairs are needed, and the seller simply collects that monthly payment. So for the seller, they don't have a headache of managing the property, dealing with late payments, dealing with roof leaks. That's all on you, and the seller still collects their monthly payment. Now, again, the multifamilystrategy.com is linked down below. If you guys want to buy their course to learn more, it's $1,500, and you're off to creating more wealth for yourself. Now, the third strategy is similar. It's actually called sub 2 or subject to. And what you do here is you find sellers that are in more distressed situations. For example, foreclosures, right? If somebody is going through a foreclosure process, what happens is they may end up losing the property and getting no money out of it, right? They don't really want to sell to a flipper who's going to lowball them. So what you do is you come in and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I know your auction date is 2 months away. What I would like to do is I would like to take over your payments. You move out of the property, find yourself another place. I'm going to take over your payments. So this will help your credit start. This will help to rebuild your credit again, right? By me taking over your payments. That's number one. That's the first benefit to the seller. The second benefit to the seller is if you're ever late, meaning you as the buyer, if you're ever late on paying off their loan, what happens is the seller takes over the property if you're ever late on the 31st day, right? So day 31, you say, Mr. Seller, if I am ever late 31 days, the title and escrow company will automatically put the title of the property back into your name. That's a second big benefit to the seller. And the biggest benefit to you is, hey, most likely the seller has the loan under a really low rate, probably 2.5, 3%. I've seen 2.3, I believe. Anyways, low twos, right? So the seller probably has their loan under a very low rate. And what happens is you take over that loan, you have a very good monthly rate, and you rent out that property to somebody who covers that rate, who covers that payment, and you can make cash flow on top of it, right? And the seller gets peace of mind that his property or her property is getting paid for and the credit is being rebuilt and really everything is back to normal. Now, there are a few nuances to this. You have to know how to correctly set up the paperwork to protect yourself from the bank calling the note. Now, what does this mean? If a bank calls the note, sometimes banks, what they do is if they see that property's changed hands without them knowing about it and now somebody else is paying the loan, the bank can call the seller and be like, well, congratulations, you owe us $300,000 within 30 days. So you want to avoid a due on sale clause being called, right? You want to avoid that. Now, if you want to learn more, feel free to contact me below. I actually paid $9,500, I think, for this course, and I can share all the info that you guys need to know for free with you. But there are some risks that you need to know about subject to before you dive into it. However, again, with subject to and with seller financing, you can own hundreds of properties. By doing it the way I've been doing it, where I buy a property a year, I can only, I believe, have 10 loans in my personal name, 10 in my wife's, and that's it. So that's how these guys are able to own 150 units. I know Pace Morby, the guy I follow on YouTube, who I paid $9,500 to, that guy owns a few thousand units using subject to. So again, you want to be careful, know who you're learning from. I'm not saying to learn from me, I'm just getting started in this. I'm going to include the links down below if you guys would like to know more. But hey, if you want to learn how to buy one house a year, then you can do what I'm doing. Anyways, wishing you guys the best. If you want to know more information, hit me up at the number below. If you'd like to buy or sell a home in Washington State, feel free to call or text me anytime, and I'd be happy to help you out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.